Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. Welcome back, Adam, and welcome back, Sky, as well. He's been on a little trip. He's been over to see his team. We're going to get more into that in a moment. Thank you guys for watching and supporting the early show in the week on the Tuesday. We're doing these preview shows. We did the divisional one, did the championship one. Probably won't do one next week because we might as well save ourselves for Super Bowl 50, which is only around the corner. We have the AFC Championship coming this weekend. The New England Patriots going to the Denver Broncos, and then we have the LA Rams going to the Seattle Seahawks. It's all led up to this. It's all led up to San Francisco. It's been a hell of a season so far, and to think we've only got 2 games left, it brings a tear to one's eye, but then we're not going away because it will kick off into free agency, into the draft, and as you all know, we don't disappear for that. We are continuing the journey through all that. To be frank, we like it more than the season sometimes with the free agency in the draft period. We love it, especially because we're all 3 of us are fantasy football nerds as well. So we love getting the insight on the draft prospects as well. And fantastic stuff to come from the franchise tag, even when the NFL is over for the year. We're going to focus on both the games this evening. The first being the New England Patriots and the Denver Broncos game. Again, we're sort of going to focus on one team than the other. So we're strap in and enjoy the ride, let's say. Well, let's ride, the Broncos say? Is that what?
Yeah.
Bronco country, let's ride?
Yeah, I feel like I never heard that until Russell Wilson turned up, but it does seem to think they do say. Bit of a weird one, isn't it? Let's ride.
I suppose the Bronco's a horse.
Bronco.
Yeah. Maybe it's just maybe it's my. I was going to blame it on all of us. Maybe it's just my brain, but the British brain.
I think we'll just blame it on your brain.
Yeah, it's not as good as LFG.
Yeah, fair. I'll take LFG every day of the week. The New England Patriots then against the Denver Broncos, not played each other this year. As I said, Sky was at the game against Houston Texans where they won 28-16. In the wild card, they played the LA Chargers, won that 16-3. First time in the AFC Championship since 2018, and first time for head coach Mike Vrabel since 2019 when he was with the Tennessee Titans. Firstly, Sky, what was it like? It was bloody cold. I could tell that from the screen.
Mate, it was incredible. I mean, like, I know obviously with the cold, I think I wanted that for the playoff game. Like I said to you, when I was driving through to stay with my friends on the Saturday night and the snow was falling, I was like, if this settles, like, this will just be the perfect weekend because, you know, you think about the famous game of the Patriots Raiders in the snow, or just like, you know, the East Coast in general, playoff weather. You know, everyone loves the glitz and glamour of the Super Bowl. And I think you hear me say a lot that I feel like we're robbed of that a bit now, maybe some of those colder Super Bowls. So when it is an East Coast team that goes deep, or just an area in the US where it is that type of temperature, it was amazing. The stadium was electric, you know, to hear the outfield song like Lose Your Love Tonight live, Living on a Prayer. Like, there's been videos going around of like just the whole of Gillette in unison. I mean, as a Patriots fan, it feels almost ridiculous to say, you know, like, given the dry spell that we had, the drought, because it has only been a few years. But then, you know, naturally, when a team is as successful as the Patriots are, you're longing for that quicker than maybe others are. There's that expectation to turn it around.
You say it's only been a few years, but it's been 8 years.
Yeah, but I mean, like, we made the playoffs with Matt Jones, is what I'm like, you know, still that year.
Yeah, but I mean, like, actually being relevant.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so it made me feel better and not be a typical.
Yeah, no, I was. So I've done a preview for it, obviously, and when I was going through it, I was looking through, and I didn't realize it had been 8 years. I was really surprised it had been as long as it had. It just goes to show how quick it goes. Sorry,
pre-COVID was the last.
Was
the last time we were in that Super Bowl, but. You know, COVID can't change everything, guys. The Pats are still relevant. So, yeah, it was amazing. Obviously, we'll probably go into in the game a bit more detail, but I feel like from people who've texted me watching it back home, it was an enjoyable game, back and forth. You know, a lot of turnovers, a lot of possessions for both teams, especially in the first half.
What was that like in the ground, the turnovers?
Surprise. Like, everybody was like, now's our chance to strike. Oh no, Will Anderson's there again. Like, he was amazing. Like, from a non-Patriots perspective, he was so good to see live. We've said that when we watched the Broncos Jets in London, that you appreciate defensive stuff more when you're there in person. So to see how quick he gets to the quarterback was pretty impressive. But Yeah, I think especially that first half with the back and forth with the turnovers, it was like something we very rarely see, even in the playoffs when the defenses step up.
Would you say this is a double-ended question, really? Did the Pats play as good as you thought they would, because you've not seen them this season yet, have you?
Saw it on week 2, the win against very early though against Miami.
Yeah, very early. So did they live up to the hype of seeing them live and how good they've been? And then on the flip side of it, from our point of view, we did a piece on it on the Tuesday show with the Houston Texans and what a mess it fit. Well, not a mess, but the CJ Stroud conundrum, what they do about that. Obviously, their defense has been headline lights out all year. Was it like, yeah, we're playing really well, but this is still the Texans defense, even though they're not playing that well? Did they look as bad as it felt like they were playing on telly? The absence of Schultz and Collins as well, like that, was it quite obvious when you were there?
Yeah, I feel like offensively there clearly were woes, and you did have a few guys around the ground, like locals, saying Stroud is awful. But I think for him, the weather as well. Like, people can make whatever narrative they want. Like, we're at this point in the season now where like the Pats defense has had 72 pressures in 2 games. And you saw that live. I don't care how good you are or bad. Like, we've seen Drake May even have, I think, 6 turnovers off 10 sacks. And we're talking about the potential league MVP. So I do think some of the narrative has been a bit harsh on Stroud because, again, like, he was missing 2 of his reliable guys. He's obviously nowhere near what he did in his Rookie of the Year campaign. But I just think that's playoff football. Like, we saw 2 teams who are very strong defensively, and that lived up to the expectation. And then, as much as maybe our offense didn't click as much as maybe expected, I think the hype of Drake May getting it done in the key moments did. He's done what he has done all season in terms of every metric he leads alludes to getting it done on 3rd and 4th down. He did that in the key moments.
Adam, you have been a flag bearer, standard bearer, a pillar of the community in terms of the scheduling that the New England Patriots have had. And that's not really gone away in the playoffs, has it? Because they played a Chargers team with barely an O-line because they're all injured. They play a Texans team with none of their star receivers. And then they're going to play a Denver team without their starting quarterback. Is this the easiest route to the Super Bowl ever?
I think that's been said, isn't it, by many people, that it's the easiest route to the Super Bowl ever. I mean, I have to say, I do kind of egg this up a little bit just to wind him up, but he deserves it, so it's okay. Look, realistically, I think what's nice to see from the Patriots side of things is that the defense has actually been better than what I think a lot of people probably thought that it was going to be in the playoffs as well. So that is definitely a positive for them. But they haven't really played, again, it's that thing where it's like CJ Stroud, you can come out and say about the weather. And obviously the weather affected everyone. I mean, Drake May fumbled the ball, 3-4 times?
Yeah.
So it's like, it would probably affect anyone in that way. But CJ Stroud was pretty dire against the Steelers as well in the previous game. So let's not make it out as though this guy is the reason that it's all fallen apart is just because of the weather. It's like, it's what was it, 7 turnovers or 7 interceptions in 2 games. So it's not a lot. I think what's nice to see is that although it has been an easy schedule and it has been an easy run in respect of who they've played in the playoffs, at least they're putting up points against strong defenses. So I think that's probably the one sort of shining light you can kind of put on the Patriots, that they are putting up points against that Texans defense. They were still in that game in the 3rd quarter easily. They were bringing it back. And to be brutally honest, all you needed was some semi-competent quarterback out there, and you could quite easily have got a different result. And I think that kind of goes to show that the Patriots are not completely there yet, and that they are still a little bit away, but at the same time, they are sort of showing signs of getting better. And I think you can see that they are going up against strong defenses and they are still able to put points on them, even though that team's offense hasn't been great. So it's not as bad, I don't think, as what a lot of people are making out.
Can I just say on top of that, I know usually Adam hates my stats and I loved what he said.
I do hate most of your stats, it's true.
They said that Drake May will be the first quarterback to face, 3 top 5 defenses since Cam Newton in that 2015 season. No one's ever beaten 3 top 5 defenses in a playoff run ever. And I don't know. I mean, Texans 1, Broncos 2, Chargers 5. I would assume the Seahawks are 3rd or 4th. Yeah, so I think if it comes to a point where we played Seattle in the Super Bowl and won that, like Adam said, whatever narrative you want to make about the regular season, we've seen many great teams over the years be great regular season teams, are probably better on paper than this Patriots team, but then fall in the playoffs, regardless of who they've played. So to get to the championship game, I mean, the Super Bowl, not without getting ahead of myself, but the Super Bowl would be more the test of either the Pats lost respectably to a great Seattle defense or, a balanced Rams team. There's at least a narrative of they were competitive. If it ended with us losing the blowout, well, you know what everyone's going to say then. The first good team you played, that happened. So, yeah, Vrabel, and then we obviously want to keep out the noise of that and just get things done on Sunday. It's still not an easy game in Mile High, but one away.
I think I was going to ask Adam this, but I asked you all the questions. I'll just put my 50p in for once. I say for once, like I never put in. I have to. The biggest thing I'm really enjoying about the Patriots at the minute is Drake May's really unfazed by the adversity of stuff. Like he had them turnovers, and it's very easy in these sort of games just to be like, "What? This is a great defense." Like, sort of play into yourself. And he's not done that in either of the games. And he's not done that much this season, I don't think, either, which is, it's commendable to him. But playoff football is different football, as Sky said, compared to the regular season. And he's not. He's come back out. He's put points up. He's played confidently. And that's what the greats do. The greats shrug it off and go. Shrug it off and go again. And it's really impressed me how well he's done that throughout these 2 games. And like you said, when you've got CJ Stroud on the other side who's turn the ball over every left, right, and center, and then he's getting the ball thinking, I'm getting all these opportunities, but then turns the ball that can get you, that can get a defense back up as well. They'd be like, we're getting the ball back for you, and you're doing nothing. Well, Drake May didn't do nothing. He then went back out there and put points up and kept consistent with it. And I think you've got to play that style of football to win playoff games, and you've got to be that mentality and that style of player. And I don't think we've ever doubted Drake May's got it. He is the it factor. He's going to be the it factor for the New England Patriots for a very long time. And it's very, very lucky that you guys have really only had a couple. I know it's a couple of down years. I know it's 8 years, but like you've only had a couple of down years of a bit of adversity. Really, 8 years from Brady into May. It's not that long, really. In reality, it is in sports years, I suppose. But in terms of the grand scheme of it, it's quite a quick turnaround. And under Mike Vrabel's tutorage with this team, it's just going to get better and better and better. And yes, next season, it's going to be the schedule. It's going to be harder. It's going to be more testing. Okay, I don't think maybe you do get what you in the end, 14 wins. Maybe you don't get 14 wins next season, but I still think this team's here to stay. Mm-hmm. And like all 4 of these teams are, I think, in this playoff bracket, they're all here to stay. I can't see, I maybe see Denver downturning a little bit potentially, but we'd have to see into the next season. Speaking of Denver, though, we will go on to them. Beat the Bills in overtime, 33-30. Obviously had that first round bye and the rest for that week because they got the first spot. Haven't played since week 18. They beat Chargers 19-3 before they beat the Bills. First time. This is in fact, my notes are all from the divisional, so I don't actually know all the first times of when this is them being back and stuff like that. But I assume it's probably first time in the Super Bowl since Peyton Manning.
It's got to be the Panthers one when they played us in the title game, the last Manning Brady game.
It must be. But the big thing that obviously came out, Adam, of the Bills game is Bo Nix is injured. He's broken his ankle out for the playoff game, and if they got to the Super Bowl, would be out for that as well. I can imagine with recovery time of that, he'd be good for week 1 going into next season. That's I would say very, very probable. Huge blow for a quarterback that admittedly has been a little bit up and down this season.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously a huge thing for them. Yeah, he'll be fine for next year. I mean it's not a broken ankle, is it? It's a broken bone in it sort of. So it's kind of like it's almost like what's he done? He chipped a bone or something. That it's kind of that sort of thing where he can't walk on it. It's the problem. So yeah, I mean, obviously, it's awful, isn't it, for them because they've had him throughout the whole season. He has had games where he hasn't looked particularly great. I remember he came over when they came over against the Jets in the middle of the season. It was a pretty dire game that was, and he didn't really look very good. But then he's also had games where he's completely taken control of it and he's kind of got this ability in the fourth quarter to come through clutch all the time. You know, he's always been able to do that. And obviously it's a massive loss. They've got Jarrett Stidham now as their starting quarterback for this game, who hasn't thrown a pass all season.
Hasn't thrown a pass for 2 seasons.
Right. So even better.
Hasn't thrown a pass since 2023.
Okay. That's one way of looking at it. So it's very, very difficult to kind of fall down on the side of the Broncos because you just feel like how are they going to put up enough points in order to be able to beat this Patriots team, which, although as we've all said, hasn't really been tested on both sides of the ball in one game. It's still, you've seen flashes from both sides of the ball that the Patriots are decent on both sides. So I don't see how it works. Obviously, the Broncos defense is still going to be good. But yeah, everyone says it's a great defense, but it did concede 30 points last week. You know, I know it's Josh Allen, but you're still conceding 30 points in a playoff game. So it's not exactly shutting anyone down. You know, there was a few games at the back end of the season where it was the same. So you're kind of relying on the defense. You're relying on Sean Payton's play calling and game plan in order to be able to get anywhere. Now, you know, historically, I think, wasn't there? I read something that there was a season when Drew Brees went out injured and Teddy Bridgewater came in and they managed to sort of get a win in the playoffs. And it was the first time that he had done anything as well. It's not a complete, like, no-hoper for the Broncos, but it's going to be very, very tough for them to be able to get anywhere. And losing Bo Nix is huge.
Well, adversity molds you. You know, it molds a team, it molds a person, and this is the highest amount of adversity for a team like the Denver Broncos going into this AFC Championship game, feeling good, healthy as well. Really going into that Bills game, coming out the other side of it with the worst injury of every injury is terrible, of course, but the quarterback position is where you absolutely don't want to get injured in. And now, Sky, with Denver going into this championship game, they know they're going to be adversity's started already. How do they overcome that? Is it going to be a defensive? It's got to be a defensive masterclass. It's got to be, they've got to get a few turnovers. They've got to maybe get a couple of points as well. Are we downplaying that Jarrett Stidham could play very well in this game? I mean, I like I said, not throwing a professional pass in 2 seasons. And then you have got the X factor of Sean Payton, who has been there and done that a lot. And he's battled for a lot of stuff as well. He's not always come out on the side of it winning, admittedly, famously the Minnesota New Orleans Saints game. But is it too late to push all the chips in for like Denver's going to lose this because they haven't got Bo Nix?
I think you've seen my notes, because one thing I would say about Bo Nix is that I think I've been one of the few people who've actually spoke highly of him throughout the season. And it is interesting now he's injured that suddenly the narrative has shifted in a way of, oh my God, they don't have Bo Nix. Because a lot of people have been quite vocal about Denver played nobody as well. They've not been fantastic. I still think this defense is great. And, you know, they led the regular season in sack percentage. And when you've seen the fumbles that Mays had, that's clearly where the game plan would be. They need to get the run game going to take the pressure off of Stidham. I know that's stating the obvious, but Pat's defense has been very good against the run this season. So I think that's also the second key thing for them. But I don't think Stidham should be ruled out. He's probably one of the few quarterbacks going into this game. Like, I remember when we drafted him, coming out of Auburn, you know, Cam Newton was there. Josh McDaniels has always spoke highly of him. He signed him in Vegas. Sean Payton spoke about, the amount of reports that he's had on him from his time in New England. And also, looking at him as a backup. Mike Vrabel said that they spoke to him about bringing him in. These are all things that sometimes I think there are a bit of smoke and mirrors and things said for the sake of it. But when I've seen him in, preseason games or whatever, I don't think necessarily that he is a awful backup compared to who else could be in this situation. And when you're playing on a team where you've got an elite defense, he just needs to, not let the moment get to him and potentially, I mean, I hate to say it because it happened to us last time when Brock Osweiler beat us in that season when then Peyton Manning took over, but it's also happened with Nick Foles. I mean, it actually, weirdly, in a way, couldn't be a worse backup because although he would have had notes on us anyway, he's playing against a team where he'll have insight on McDaniels to potentially share with the Broncos defense, but probably have more of a say now in the locker room because he's the guy. So, yeah, I mean, I would still 70% lean towards the Patriots, but I think that's more me as a fan. I think most 60-40 is probably fair as well, just because, again, of the stadium they're playing in. We don't have I don't like to talk about history of stadiums because it happened with that Miami game in week 2 where I was confident we'd beat them because we all said they were awful, and we did. But historically, the Pats don't have a great record at Mile High either. And the altitude, like we're only flying in on Saturday. I think that's part of it as well. Maybe you just want to be in your own bubble because it is intense to go there and be around in Colorado.
So who's going to win this, Adam? Who's going to win this game?
I think the Patriots win it. I think that they will just have too much for them in general. I don't feel like Stidham is going to be able to do enough in order to be able to beat them. I think he'll, as Sky said, I think he'll do a little bit better. I think he's going to be very motivated against his old team. So I think there's going to be a bit of that in it as well. But I just think it's going to be a little bit too much for him, and the unbelievable schedule run will continue for this Patriots team.
Just one more week, though. Just for one more week.
Thank God, eh? Thank God the Rams beat the Bears. That's all I'd say.
Sky, obviously you're going to say the Patriots are going to win this, but you think it's going to be a lot closer than people expect? Are you thinking blowout? Like, what are you thinking here?
I mean, we're 5.5 points favourites. I've seen. I would lean more towards 4. I think I probably see maybe like a 28-24 or type of game. I mean, a lot of people, unless you're a Patriots fan, have not really spoke about Zach Cord, taking over from Terrell Williams on the defensive calling side because of the health issues he's had. And I think he's really come into that role, ever since coming out of the bye, called up some good stuff in like the Baltimore game and in the playoffs. And I think if our defense could just play to the capability that is shown, like Adam highlighted, a level that probably a lot of people haven't seen in the last 2 weeks, again, that takes pressure off Drake May to, maybe have to do some superhero stuff because I am still worried about the Broncos defense. But yeah, I do think it'll be closer than people realize. I don't think you get to this point, regardless of schedules and, superstars in your team and whatnot. You've got to be a good team to make a championship game. So as much as the quarterback is the most important position, I do think we'll only beat Denver by 1 score.
Yeah, I'm going to pretty much echo what both of you say. So I actually don't think it'll be that high scoring either. I think we could be getting a 21-16 game. I think it could be quite low scoring. I mean, only one game in this playoff run has been like that. You can say Texans Steelers was a blowout. It was the last 2 minutes. They got all them points. It wasn't a blowout, really. The only blowout's been the Seattle San Francisco game. That's the only one. Most games have been pretty close. I know you guys beat the Chargers 16-3, but I wouldn't. 16 points isn't a blowout, but you got to go over 20. You got to go over 20 points for a blowout, don't you? You can't really say under 16.
It's not even 2 scores. You're right. It's just the Chargers couldn't do anything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Stim's going to probably make some good plays. I think their defense is going to be really amped for it. And I think everyone might know Stidham, but there's no tape on him. It's not like we've seen loads of it. I know they all know him, but it's not like we've seen him this season. And He could have changed his whole, not he's changed his whole style, but since his time in New England, he's a very different player. Players develop, players change, players get influenced by other things. He's been surrounded by Sean Payton and that coaching staff and Bo Nix. Like, I'm sure he has learned, listened, and adjusted himself. So I don't think he's going to be terrible by no means. I just don't see him winning. I think it's got to be special. These games, it's special quarterback, and Drake May is ultimately the better quarterback, obviously, out of the both of them.
Surely we all want the Patriots to win it, though, anyway, don't we?
That's a good question.
So that we actually have not because I have anything against the Broncos specifically, but just, you know, your argument about the tape is true. Well, then we're going into a Super Bowl where there will be tape, and it's like the Super Bowl could be a blowout and it's all over before half time if you end up going the other way. So I feel like you want the Patriots in there with one of the NFC West teams, surely.
Yeah, Adam's right. So you wouldn't want. I don't think you'd want the Seahawks or Rams with 2 weeks to prepare for a Jared Stidham led offense.
Yeah.
What, as in you think it would just be like a dull game? I think
it'll be a blowout
over quickly.
Yeah. You want ultimately the Super Bowl to be competitive, don't you? And actually, the Super Bowl is going to be more competitive with New England Patriots in it, really.
Nice to know we've got 3 Pats fans for Sunday then. Welcome, guys.
On to the NFC Championship game. The LA Rams coming up against their division rival in the NFC West, the Seattle Seahawks. The game in the AFC Championship starts at 8 o'clock on Sunday. And then this game starts at 11:30. So not too late if people are wanting to stay up for it. This will be the third time they play each other this season. The first time was week 11 in LA. LA won that 21-19. And they played in week 16 in Seattle. Seattle won that in overtime, 38-37. But we'll stick with the LA Rams for the minute. They beat the Carolina Panthers in the wildcard game, 34-31, and then beat the Bears in overtime last weekend, 20-17. First time in the NFC Championship since 2021 for the LA Rams, and that is the year that they won it. McVay's been there since 2017 now, and he's been there twice in 9 years. LA Rams, I've been a little bit harsh guy on the Rams of recent. I think they peaked at like week 12, I think, and it's gone a little bit not backwards. It's just not been as showy since. And I think they've done tremendously well in the playoffs. But I think there is areas of concern for me with this Rams defense in the secondary for me. And when you're playing against someone like Jackson Smith and Jigba, that's a problem. Like, this front nine's very good, but I don't think the front nine has been elite for the whole season. Am I being harsh, or am I overdoing it with this? And should I just focus more on Stafford and Corum and Williams and Adams and Nakua rather than the negatives, I suppose?
I actually don't think you're being harsh after what I saw against Chicago. Like, I mean, when I say I want the Bears to win that's not because of like. I just feel like the Rams rode their luck a bit. I mean, that's coming from me saying that when Caleb Williams obviously threw that ridiculous throw that only happens once in like 1,000 times. I think this is just clearly the thing of good coaching. Like you said, like McVay's managed to keep them at least tuned in enough that while they're not firing on all fronts, they still find a way to win. And this is the key thing. Like, maybe you've been a little bit harsh in that Stafford still deserves credit in that they played lower to the Panthers level, but then they had a game-winning drive, and then he did it again. So I think we're clearly just seeing a team that's capable of getting it done in the big moments. But there is definitely a few chinks in that armor where the Seattle defense will be licking their lips to think we could potentially expose some flaws in the Rams that weren't there, prior to, say, week 10. I think week 10, everybody was picking them as their Super Bowl favorite. Now, each week, I feel like everything I read, someone's trying to think of a reason to not pick the Rams because they're not as convinced.
Well, before season even started, Adam said that the Rams will go and win the Super Bowl and Jared Verse will be Defensive Player of the Year. One of them could still be true. One of them's definitely not going to happen with Jared Verse. The Rams could still make the Super Bowl. I mean, Devontae, there's the guys on this offense. I mean, Matt Stafford, MVP caliber season. the dual-headed running back threat with Williams and Corum, who have both been really good. Corum's really taken that step up this year. You got Puka Nacua, one of the best in the game. Devontae Adams has been one of the best in the game and has that experience. They've got a very solid O-line. I mean, it is an offense that has been incredibly enjoyable to watch this season, Adam. And we got the pleasure of seeing that at Wembley as well.
Yeah, I think when you say about the fact that it kind of felt like it sort of hit the heights in week 12 and then sort of fell away a little bit, I think they did coincide with Devontae Adams being out injured. I think that was a huge reason. And the offense just wasn't as powerful as what it had been for the previous part of the season. But they're a very, very strong offense. They've got loads of weapons. I mean, they've even got the 3 tight ends that are all actually sort of very capable and have shown and got involved. And they're doing these like 3 tight end sets, aren't they? Which is just something where I think
Higbee, Ferguson, and
Colby Parkinson.
Oh yeah,
that's one.
I feel like there's Allen as well. No, I feel like they've got 4.
Yeah, Allen's there. He doesn't really play much though, does he? So it's like it does seem to be Parkinson, Higbee, and Ferguson are the 3 that seem to be getting involved quite a lot. And yeah, I think that they're showing that they can score in so many different ways. I think that really does help them. Obviously, they're going up against a very good defense in the Seahawks, so it's going to be tough for them to be able to do it. But because they have so many options, and because they have got this quarterback who is arguably playing the best football that he's ever played, it just kind of feels like that they've got a chance of being able to do something here. You are right regarding the secondary. It was the weak point that we said it before the season even started, that was the area that they can be got at. I feel like they have done okay, but they haven't been fantastic. So they haven't matched the same as every other area of that team. But I think that they've done pretty well. And I felt like they did really well in the Bears game. You know, they were in the right spots. I mean, obviously it helped that although Caleb had some amazing throws, also felt the need to throw it straight to them as well. So that always helps. But yeah, I just think that they're all right. They're not great, but they're all right. And I think if they can keep that and have this strong offense, then they were in a really good position in that last game away at the Seahawks in was it week 16? Did you say?
Yeah, sorry. The week 16 was in Seattle, where Seattle.
Yeah, that game they were in a really strong position, and the Seahawks came back on them. But if they can get into that sort of position again and just keep going, I think this is the one team that does have the potential to outscore Seattle.
In the experience of Coach McVay's guy, I know McDonald, the head coach for the Seattle team, is been around a while, but he's not been a head coach for a long time. McVay's experience in these positions now, how much is that worth its weight in gold? Because he's such a fantastic coach. We know that, and he's got really great coordinators as well. But is it maybe going to be a bit of an experience thing?
Yeah, I think with McVay, like you said, he's been in this situation as well where he's played the Niners in the postseason, and a divisional matchup in the playoffs is even more heightened, and there's extra, scrutiny from the media, but also in terms of like when you're game planning, because you don't want to overthink because you've seen something X amount of times earlier in the season. I think McVay's quite good at removing that and still looking at the X's and O's. Like, we know how big of a X and O guy he is, and the way that he talks to the media and how in depth he is. I think really ever since, and I'm not just saying it for the sake of it, ever since that Super Bowl loss to us, when he was a bit like, enamored with meeting Belichick, I think there was like a flip that day, and then he won his own Lombardi, and he's almost become like, he's not even 40 yet. I think like to have that many wins and be this highly regarded throughout the National Football League, it could be the difference maker if it's, tight in the game, which all signs point towards this one being a 1-score game, one way or another. So yeah, that could be the difference. And Chris Shula, he schemed up a pretty good game. I think when Darnold was on the Vikings last year, he's come into his own. Obviously, head coaching opportunities.
Yeah, I doubt he's going to still be there next season.
Yeah, exactly. Like he'll be a key factor as well. I've just got big faith in. It's almost like Seattle on paper maybe edges it talent-wise throughout, but then these are the moments where the coaching staff maybe shines through and the key downs, they execute more because of what these coaches dial up.
Have you seen the photo that Adam Schefter put up earlier about these two face-to-face?
No.
So head-to-head the last 2 seasons, the Rams and Seahawks, right? This is how crazy. This is crazy because I think I don't know. The other game feels more one-sided. I think this feels really close. The LA Rams have scored 109 points. Seattle have scored 107. Like it's that close. And yards-wise, Rams have had 1,599. The Seahawks have had 1,589. And like there's more stats like that. There's like a good 4 or 5 stats where head-to-head, they are like neck and neck, equal. And yet I would say, well, I don't know, they are sort of similar. You know, they're very solid defenses. They've run the ball very well. They've got a great wide receiver. They've got a great tight end game, even though Seattle's tight end isn't as, not got many, and maybe you wouldn't say he's as good as some of the guys that the Rams have got. But I think this is such like we sort of said it last weekend, didn't we? After Bo Nix went down, we wish this was the Super Bowl. These two teams, because it's going to be obviously Sky. You would hate that, obviously. But with Seattle, onto the Hawks, they beat the 49ers 41-6, getting that first round bye. So they got that week of rest. First time back in the game since 2014. And who'd they beat in 2014 in overtime, 28-22?
Oh, the Packers.
They beat.
We don't talk about.
Russell Wilson to Jermaine Kearse. Walk-off touchdown. And Adam's hated onside kicks ever since.
What part of we don't talk about this have you not got?
And Fred, you'll have the beautiful, glorious coach of that day who never went for it, potentially on your team soon as well.
Mike McCarthy, you meaning?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I don't know about that. I don't think it will be. Anyway, that's for another day. Steelers is for another day. Seattle, a lot of inexperience on this team for getting to this game. They're a young squad. They're a young team, Sky, but they've been tremendous. Their defense has been absolutely sublime all season. They've been one of the most enjoyable teams to watch on offense as well. Third best offense in this league. I mean, we picked apart a few holes with the Rams. What's the but what about that for the Seattle Seahawks?
Adam's
and yes, I'm leading I am leading the horse to water here.
He knows what's coming. Well, obviously, the key in this game is, like you said, the Rams have a weakness in their secondary, but is Sam Darnold the quarterback to exploit that? Because even though Seattle's secondary is elite, Matthew Stafford is also an elite quarterback. So the weakness, without being harsh to him, is Sam Darnold. And I think this game just pure and simply turns on how he plays. Like I said, Chris Schuler has done well against him previously. And, it just even that game when they came back and won, offensively, they started that horribly. And I've always said from that point that, if Adams had played in that game, the Rams win. But I do feel like Seattle's confidence has grown. They needed that win in the playoffs. But then again, it's a banged up Niners team. I don't want to put down anything that the 49ers did to get there. And it was impressive by Seattle because you can only beat who's in front of you. But yeah, the weakness is Darnold. And it does not help, obviously, that Zach Charbonnet is injured, because he took over this year really from Kenneth Walker and was key in big moments. So now we're going back to one running back, and that puts more pressure on Darnold as well, because they probably will end up passing it more. So it's going to be tough for him. But if he gets it done this week, then who can really say anything? But, he saw ghosts in New York, so I'm sure he's bound to see ghosts at some point.
Not in his own stadium, surely. The 12th man. They're not going to allow it. no ticket, no entry for the ghosts
Well,
at the.
If he plays the Pats in the Super Bowl, Salem's down the road in Boston, and there's a lot of spooky stuff there. So there'll be more ghosts coming in San Fran.
He's not wrong, Adam. He's not wrong with Darnold, and I think you completely agree on that. That is, it's can he do it in the? It's not the biggest game just yet.
The bright lights.
Can he do it? Yeah, can he do it when the bright lights are on and you're playing a very, very good side as well?
Yeah, it is going to be tough for him. I mean, in the playoff game where they played against the 49ers, he only had 12 passes, and I mean, they didn't need to do any more than that, which is fair enough. They got themselves in a position where they were up very quickly, and obviously they could rely on the run game, and Kenneth Walker got 3 touchdowns in that game, so it kind of worked out pretty well, and you didn't have to rely on Darnold to do anything. I imagine they're probably going to try and use the run game as much as they can, but like you say, without Zach Charbonnet there, it does sort of limit the type of runs that they can do. You do have Ken Walker, who it did feel like during this season had kind of lost the starting job to a certain degree, and it had kind of become more of a 50-50 split at one point, and arguably more to Charbonnet by the end of the season. So it is a difficult one. It does feel that Darnold is going to be relied upon more in order to be able to get the win in this game. And, obviously he is going up against a Rams defense where the front 7 are very, very good. And that is going to be very difficult for him to deal with, obviously, throughout the whole game. I do think he can potentially exploit the secondary, and he can get some wins in that way. I think we saw that he can do things like that throw to Jackson Smith and Jigba towards the beginning of the game against the 49ers. I think he does have that potential. Whether he can do that throughout the whole game is the real question, and one that it kind of feels a little bit like he hasn't really answered, and to be honest, hasn't really had the opportunity to answer. So it is really difficult to sort of come out and go, oh, well, they're not going to win because Darnold's not good, basically going to freak out because of how big the game is. But yeah, I mean, it is an unanswered question, and I think it is one area where you feel like they might not be able to score as many points as what they have done in previous games because of that. So it does make it an interesting spectacle because of that.
I mean, he's thrown 15 interceptions in the regular season. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Like, I know I sort of said it last week on the preview, and I don't actually believe this about the Pats Broncos game, but I firmly believe about this game. The turnover battle, whoever wins turnover battle is going to win this game. That's ultimately what it's going to be. Now, the Rams aren't some turnover machine. They can get pressure to you, but it's a lot of picks, and it is. You're right about with Darnold, and it's going to be the ball security. It's going to be not forcing it. Picking the right times to go and when to just check down and not get caught up in the moment. I think he's capable of doing it. I think he's capable of doing it, and I think people will really eat their words if he wins this game in a very convincing fashion. Because for me, this team's a Super Bowl favorite at this point. I'm very much in the driving seat of they will win the Super Bowl. For me, I think their defense is far too good, and I think their offense is far too powerful as well. Yes, losing Charbonnet is a problem, but I think it's something that this team can overcome. And I mean, yeah, the defense is really, really good for Seattle. And they're so young. They're so young. I mean, Nick Emanwori, the rookie safety, God, he's been amazing. I mean, we knew he was going to be very good when he got drafted, but it is almost a team of I sort of say it like a joke about this with the Denver team, and I've heard it on some podcasts. That's why I sort of say it's a defense where you can't really name anyone, but they're all really, really, really good. And it's a little bit like Denver. They don't really have any stars, but all the players are very, very good. And like, you know, Witherspoon maybe is but they got Clowney, haven't they, on the line? I don't remember who the other pass rusher is. Not sure who their defensive tackles are, but they have played at the highest level this year.
Byron Murphy, like there's a few, but I know what you mean. Maybe because they're all so good, we don't hear about them in the way of like when the Rams will say Kobe Turner, Jared Verse. You know, I think that you more can pick people. Seattle have just got talent across the entire team, even the secondary with like Bryant and Love. Emin Wari was my pick when we did our mid-season show for Rookie of the Year on the defensive side. It's stacked with talent. It's tough though without Charbonnet. Like they activated George Halani, who is born in New Zealand. I found out. So to know, unless there's a secret recipe with a Kiwi, maybe they can. It's the perfect replacement for Charbonnet.
Who's going to win this game then, Sky?
I remember saying in my earlier point, I said that if Devontae Adams was healthy, I've never really been able to look past the Rams going all the way, just because of how good this offense is. But then I do think the Rams will get it done because of the point you made about the coaching, the point Adams made about Adams as well, and the fact that Darnold and losing a running back. I think as much as defense can keep him in the game, as long as Stafford, he has been a bit weird in, these first two games. He hasn't been amazing really until the fourth quarter, which when you need to be, same as Drake May did against the Texans. But I think we expect more from Stafford at this point in his career. But I don't think he'll be phased. So I'm going to lean towards the Rams, but surely it could be a 1 point game, guys. It could be like 31-30.
I think it's going to be 26-24 overtime Seattle. I think it'll be that close. I think you're very right. I think this could be a one-score game. It could be a 1 point game. Sorry, not one-score game. I think I'm siding with Seattle because I just can't see past them. I think the Rams are really, really good, and I think they're really going to bring it to them. I'm just really on the bandwagon and on the train for the Seattle team. They just do everything so well. They just execute really well. And I want to believe in Darnold as well. I want to believe that these teams messed it up with him. New York, Carolina.
It would be a good fairy tale, as much as I hate to admit it's not the right word, but it would be a nice story. But yeah, I'm not even saying I don't even have a preference if we circle back in terms of me being a Patriots fan. I don't even have a preference on who I'd rather play. Because they are both
I don't want to play either of them. That's really
they're both so strong in their own way.
I want to play the Bears. That's who you want to play.
Before I hand over to Adam, the thing that I did read though is obviously Seahawks are now included in the playoffs 15-3. Their 3 losses have been by a combined 9 points. So like you said, they are insanely good. But I just think that really, if any team can beat them, it probably is the Rams because of the divisional familiarity aspect and their strengths being so high. Stafford, Adams, Nakua, McVay.
Go on, Adam. You've got the tiebreaker on this.
I will go with the Rams just because I have kind of been with the Rams all the way through this, and there's no point changing now, sort of thing. I think the 1-score game is right. It will be very tight. I think one thing actually that we didn't mention, the Seahawks special teams as well is very good and could be a difference maker as well. But I'm going to stick with the Rams, and I just feel that because we all think this is going to be a tight game, and I think most people think this is going to be a tight game, I sort of think to myself, who would I rather have as my quarterback in that situation? And so I think because of that, I'd rather be on the side of Stafford and McVay than I would on Darnold and McDonald. And that's kind of all it boils down to. Both very good teams. Unfortunately, can't be the Super Bowl, but would have been a good Super Bowl. And I'm going to stick with the Rams. Sure.
Fred, can I just say that if Seattle do draw up an amazing game plan, Clint Kubiak has been linked with the Steelers job. I know this is not about your Steelers, but was he coordinator for Seattle? Like maybe this is
No,
an audition.
they go for defensive head coaches. It's not going to happen.
I think it's going to be Shula myself. I think at this point,
Yeah.
That's the one that's really coming out.
Don Shula.
Yeah, Don Shula. Yeah.
Special assistant.
Thank you both for joining me this evening. Thank you guys also for watching, whether you watch it on YouTube. Well, you can only watch it on YouTube, but while you're there, like and subscribe. And if you're listening to this on any podcast platform, make sure you also subscribe as well there. Sky, Adam, thank you very much. I hope you all enjoy the championship weekend. It has been a long road to get here, but we are finally at the pearly gates of the Super Bowl in San Francisco. It is only around the corner. It has been a very, very fun year. Again, thank you for your support. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. Until then, we'll see you again very soon.